What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So as we head towards the Switch 2 reveal in April, there have been a lot of discussions and concerns even around the Switch 2 pricing and how it could end up being higher than expected based on outside forces. Well, now we have Nintendo's president responding to some of these concerns and laying out their strategy. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Rockstar and Take-Two with GTA 6 and potentially a big twist that may have been revealed here a bit early. And we also have Shuhei Yoshida, who's recounting his time once again at Sony, giving new details around Jim Ryan when he took over and kind of confirming a long-standing belief about maybe some of the clashing within Sony when that happened. We'll go over that though here today. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channels do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button down below. And we're going to start today with Marvel Rivals and the Switch 2, as it seems that at least the studio there is preparing to launch the extremely popular multiplayer game on that new platform. We can see this posted up. Now, this is taken from IGN over on Fiction Horizon, as IGN did have a chance to speak with Marvel Rivals producer. This was at the DICE Summit in Las Vegas, where they said, we're already in contact with Nintendo and working on some development kits, and whenever we find that we could provide great performance for our game on Switch 2, we're open to that. The reason why we didn't launch it onto the Switch, it was the first generation of that device. They cannot provide a great experience for our gameplay, so if it could achieve that goal, we're open to that. So yeah, basically, hey, the current Switch, it could run it, but it could run it at like 15 or 20 frames per second. That's just, that wouldn't even be fair in general in like the multiplayer environment. Like, you're going up against people who are playing at 60 frames and beyond. So if a system is struggling, even with crossplay, or even just by itself, it just wouldn't be a great representation of the game. But now we see the Switch 2 coming onto the scene. It seems to be quite a bit more powerful than the current Switch, so wouldn't shock me if you see not only games like Marvel Rivals, which gonna get on it, try to get on as many platforms as possible, but even some of the other larger, some would say even at times impossible ports, make its way over. So yeah, April 2nd, gonna be interesting to see what shows up there. Also, coming off of that state of play with Sony, while we did have Saros there, which was really cool to see Housemarque show up 4 or 5 years after Returnal came out, people were wondering, okay, where are all the other first-party updates or just new announcements? Well, we can see this posted up, and this is taken from Jeff Grubb's podcast transcribed over on VGC, saying internally it sounds like they're debating and flopping between maybe making something this summer a full showcase versus another state of play, but they are considering a showcase. So the idea of Sony having another state of play in, say, May isn't unfounded. They do that pretty much every year, and them instead doing a showcase would give off the impression that there would be a bunch of first-party updates or new games there. And this is, to me, hearing this from Jeff Grubb, kind of going back and forth on, I mean, it can't really be wrong technically as a state of play, or it might be a showcase. Like, one of the two most likely is going to happen in like that May or June time period. It really just comes down to which show and if they will have a bunch of first-party stuff to go over. Wolverine is just like out there somewhere. Ghost of Yote needs a release date, that being a big one. Those are the two that I'd really be curious about right now. Intergalactic, I'm thinking 2026 actually. We'll hear more about that one. So, hey, we'll see as we head into the summer if Sony has a state of play or a showcase ready to roll. Oh, and fans of Digimon who are looking to hear more about the latest game that was announced, it appears you'll be able to see that next month. We can see this posted up. This is over on the website. Now, Digimon Storytime Stranger will have more updates, getting it set to release in 2025, but the next place it appears like it'll get at least a spotlight, this would be at Digimon Con, and that's happening March 20th, Thursday. They say 12 noon Japan Standard Time, so you have to do the time difference there and see exactly what that is in your area, but yeah, I mean, Digimon Con, it makes sense. I am curious to see more about the gameplay and stuff, even though I pick and choose which Digimon games to really check out. Like Cyber Sleuth, I enjoyed that. I thought it was a very good portable game. But when I look at something like Digimon Survive, didn't really click for me. But this one I am curious about, especially if it's closer to maybe Cyber Sleuth versus Survive. So I guess we'll find out more on the 20th next month. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and their Switch 2, with the pricing really being up in the air right now. Could they get as low as $350, as some have speculated? Could it be as high as $500. To me, I mean, nothing's off the table, and I would mostly stick right now to the range of $400 to $450, and there could even be maybe a bundle thrown in there that does get it to that $500 mark. Really, anything's possible at this point. We'll just have to see what they're able to present on April 2nd. But for now, we do have some comments that were shown by Reuters with the Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa, and they were translated over by Nintendo Everything, as well as obviously if you go to Reuters page that I've linked down below in the sources, you can use Google Translate or any kind of translation setup or program you have access to at least see what he was saying. But I did go ahead and translate as well as check out Nintendo Everything with theirs, and we can see this posted up. This from Furukawa, who initially said, with investors, want to maintain the momentum of the entire business by continuing to game console business and IP intellectual property development with the Switch 2. Go figure, they're going to stick with what they know, which is make a platform, sell a bunch of them, create exclusive to continue momentum, and keep building up those intellectual properties, which is the most important and most valuable thing to Nintendo. It's not their game console, it's their intellectual properties, which, yes, do thrive completely on their game systems and help to move hardware. So no shocker there, first party, very important. But the thing that pairs with that is they do need to create and sell a bunch of systems. I mean, a ton of them. Remember, their home console and their handheld business all wrapped up into one now at this time. So he does go on to say, when asked about the potential for tariffs and what effect that could have, say, on Switch systems that are coming out of China and being shipped to the US, says, Switches are produced not only in China, but also in Vietnam and Cambodia. We have established a system in anticipation of various geopolitical risks. He added that if additional tariffs are imposed on China, a certain impact is expected, but the impact on our performance this fiscal year will be minor. We will keep a close eye on the developments and thoroughly consider how to respond. So on this fiscal year, which will end March 31st, yeah, you're not really going to be impacted because most of the systems that would be sold at the rest of this way is probably already in warehouses or being shipped at this time. So tariffs that could go into effect, say, in March or April, well, that's not going to affect any of those systems that have kind of already made their way through and are sitting on in warehouses ready to go out to your Targets or your Walmarts or your Best Buys, what have you. But going into, say, the next fiscal year, which would then run from April to March 31st, 2026, I mean, who really knows at this point? That's the thing. It's a serious unknown, but it is interesting because having Furukawa running Nintendo at this time as the president kind of leans more into his background. Like, people talk about him as, oh, he's not the creative, say, that Iwata was, right? This person, Furukawa, now at the top of Nintendo, has been for years, obviously, really rolling with the Switch. More from a banking or financial background, a numbers guy. That kind of makes sense to be in that position at this time. So it's not really like Nintendo lucked out because he's been there for, like I said, years and years now, but it's actually one of his strong suits, you would figure. So the idea of having manufacture happen in places even outside of China, maybe to account for the US stock that can maybe get around some of those imposed tariffs based on the locations coming from. I mean, it's a possibility. That's the thing, though, a lot of unknowns currently, but it does seem like Nintendo is very aware of that situation. And I mean, if tariffs in general happen, say, from China with technology and stuff, it's going to be kind of across the board with many of these different consumer electronics. So how much of an effect it'll have, well, that we'll have to wait and see until any of that actually happens. So, hey, we'll keep an eye on this. Again, I'll let you guys know if your electronics are going to get any more expensive, hopefully before it happens. Next up, let's talk about Grand Theft Auto 6, Rockstar and Take-Two, and some of the plans they have around the online side of things. I mean, the single player, we kind of already have an idea as to what to expect. More like what they've done before. GTA 5, big open world, all kinds of crazy intertwining stories. We saw the trailer. It looks like it's going to be off the wall, ridiculous. But with the online, I've been trying to figure out different ways that they can kind of take that to the next level, because think about GTA Online right now that's still being played in droves. That was an online that was designed back in 2013, even before that, but it was released in 2013. It's quite old now. But with that and the role-playing sector that really popped up for a game that was never designed for it, it is impressive how far the community's been able to take this. Well, it also seems that Rockstar and Take-Two have some plans around things that might even get outside of just the virtual world. We can see this posted up. Now, this is a report from Digiday who says Rockstar Games has been in discussions with top Roblox and Fortnite creators, as well as dedicated Grand Theft Auto content creators, about the potential to create custom experiences inside the upcoming game. According to 3 industry insiders, of course, with Knowledge's meetings, who were requested to be anonymous throughout these reports. These experiences would allow creators to modify the game's environment and assets to bring their own intellectual property and potentially their brand sponsors into Grand Theft Auto's virtual sandbox, which sounds like the whole metaverse thing that has died down quite a bit in like the last year or two. Remember when they said you're going to go virtual shopping in Walmart and you're going to exist in this virtual world and all the real life brands would be there, and then it kind of wasn't anymore. It fell so far into the background that you barely noticed it anymore. Grand Theft Auto Online would be an interesting case for them creating their own little quote-unquote metaverse. Fortnite does it. We know that Roblox, as being pointed out here, does it. But the idea of user-created content technically then gets to a point where you can actually generate money in the game. And that's sort of the thing that this report continues with, is they're still not really sure what it would lead to in terms of compensation. Well, I think some people would do it just for fun and be like, oh, cool, I can have my made-up shoe brand in here. Or maybe Nike, for example, does something in it and is like, this is good just for brand awareness. Yes. But if you could have legitimate user-created content when it comes to an entire story that's created in GTA Online, different heists, environments, houses, cars, and the person who's creating this stuff gets a kickback, that could spiral out of control in terms of microtransactions, yes, but could actually hold up an entire economy within it, which would probably spur on more and more interesting creations. It's kind of a double-edged sword there, because it would most likely spur innovation, but would also put in a massive cash shop in the game in front of you with stuff constantly hitting. So I'd be curious to see how Rockstar and Take-Two would continue to implement this, because it would be quite the task to even just moderate all of that and make sure like cheating and stuff didn't get out of control, because again, monetary value being attached to it means you're gonna have a lot of people really try to break the system. But I'd be interested to see if that really is the next big evolution for GTA Online, to really reach out to the real world and become its own quote-unquote metaverse. Next up, let's talk about Shuhei Yoshida, who is now retired from Sony and has really made a massive impact on that company, obviously more than 30 years in the industry there. And he's been doing a lot of rounds when it comes to interviews. Well, the most recent one got people talking once again about Jim Ryan, and if he was someone who just retired on his own, or if he was actually pushed out after all of the recent events that were happening within Sony. Well, now we can see this posted up. This is over on VentureBeat. Again, a really well done interview overall. I have a link down below if you want to read through it. He had some interesting insights into things like the PlayStation 3 with the cell processor and stuff. But he did talk quite a bit about the transition that he went through internally at Sony when Jim Ryan took over in 2019. Because when that happened, Shuhei did step down kind of into like an indies role, so he was mostly just in charge of relationships with different indie games and PlayStation, which he did like. He said that himself, but this was part of the interview from Yoshida saying, moving from first party to indies, well, I had no choice. When Jim asked me to do the indie job, the choice was to do that or leave the company. But I felt very strongly about the state of PlayStation indies. I really wanted to do this. I believed I could do something unique for that purpose. Okay, so people already don't like Jim Ryan, and now they're being told from Shuhei Yoshida that he was basically forced out of the first party position to work on indie games, which he clearly has a passion for gaming and indie titles and stuff, and really likes some of the innovation and unique factors to that. I get it. But like, he was there at the top, rolling along, working on these first-party games that people absolutely loved. And people look at Jim Ryan as the person who came in and did a lot of damage to Sony with the live service stuff, even though I understand Sony is doing really well in terms of just money. Like, they're showing all kinds of revenue, like all-time highs across the board for a lot of that stuff. But there are people who look at it and go, did we really need the 12 live service games, Jim? And then he has a whole thing where he has a party and his face is on a cookie and then he's gone. And then there's still struggles with Herman Holst, and like he's apparently been like demoted or not demoted because he's still it's all strange. But when you hear Yoshida say, yeah, it was either this or I leave, it doesn't exactly sound like he was excited technically for Jim Ryan to take the position in 2019. And it does make you wonder back then, what could have been, because what if Shuhei got that position? What would PlayStation be like now, especially after the interview before this where he said, yeah, I wouldn't have been that interested in all of those live service games that they greenlit. Maybe he would have been more invested in the idea of first-party, narrative-driven, budget-conscious games that don't take 8+ years to come out and then half of them get canceled. Who knows? But hey, we got Jim Ryan and now Herman Holst. And, well, Fair Games is out there somewhere. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Days Gone Remastered, which got an incredible reaction on the live stream for that State of Play. I actually saw a lot of reactions of people just break out laughing completely. It is, yes, I know it is weird when they say Days Gone Remastered, the game from like 5 years ago or something. Yeah, the game already looks really good on the PS5. It had a patch that pushed it like 60 frames. It's like clean, 1440p upscale to 4K already. This is going to be adding some extra content, PS5 Pro support. Visuals, at this time anyway, for the shown, looks very much the same. We'll have to see in action when it comes out, sure. But it does appear that you won't be able to use the PlayStation Plus version of the game to take advantage of that $10 upgrade path. We can see this posted up. This is over on the PlayStation Plus subreddit, underlining the fine print saying game redemptions via PlayStation Plus are not eligible for upgrade. Now, this isn't technically new. We've seen this with some of the previous PlayStation quote-unquote remasters or definitive editions. You have to own the game in your digital library or physically. Now, Days Gone Remastered is $50. If you look around, you can technically find the PS4 disc for like $30. I think it's used at GameStop at that price. I was a little surprised because I actually got Days Gone physically, and it was, I remember it was on sale at one point for $20, brand new. So maybe you'll see another sale pop up between then and now, and it's like, okay, it's a $30 game, but it seems like many people, at least from the sales charts you can see, they're buying it. I mean, it is above right now on PlayStation's own charts, above MLB The Show 25. It's just behind PGA Tour 2K25. These are people who are just outright pre-ordering it now, months ahead of its release. So I do wonder, I think there are many people, and I've seen this kind of go around, is like, hey, you should buy this because that will then push Sony to do Days Gone 2. But we did get more information that seemed that Ben's studio was the one who kind of killed the pitch for that game. Because it's hard to say. I mean, you feel like, oh, Sony didn't want it. Well, no, it seems like, at least at this time, from what we've heard from some of the previous game directors and stuff, that they were going to do it, but internally they just decided not to. And I do wonder if just the development of that game was an issue. I mean, clearly the game came out in rough shape, didn't get the best reviews, and I almost wonder if they look back and they're like, not a great time for the studio. Don't really know if we want to go back and do that now. But then they have their live service game seemingly canceled, and now they're just kind of hanging out. Maybe this is the in-between period where they can evaluate things with Days Gone Remastered, but I still don't think people should just go out and buy it just hoping for Days Gone Remastered 2. Although, hey, I mean, if you already have the first one, the current one, and you really liked it, it's a $10 upgrade. I mean, it's $10. Go for it, see what you think. But don't know if I'd buy it for that reason outright. I mean, it's still a good game. People really liked it. I'm going to give it another shot when it releases for that $10 upgrade. But I don't know if I would buy it going, oh yeah, in 2 years, Days Gone 2 is going to show up. Guys, if they're getting started now, yeah, it's going to be a PlayStation 6 game. So that's just game development now in 2025. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, of these March game releases, which one are you most excited for? Look at that. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, 62%. Hey, Split Fiction at 17%. Assassin's Creed Shadows at 16%. Oh, WWE 2K25, 5%. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the March releases, and Split Fiction is interesting. I think I'm going to play through that with Ryan on the Click R3 podcast, and I'll be able to discuss it a bit there on the show. Assassin's Creed Shadows, people are just, that's such a polarizing game right now online, but like Xenoblade Chronicles X, There are a lot of people I'm sure that missed out on it on the Wii U, and they have a Switch, and maybe they've been playing some of the Xenoblade games, and now they're, okay, yeah, I have to get that. And for many, that is their favorite Xenoblade game, as like the scales, the world, I think is very interesting, very sci-fi. So like, I get it, and that I'm gonna be picking it up too, even though I have it on the Wii U and I enjoyed it there. So it'd be really cool to kind of revisit that game and see what quality of life stuff they had and how much it influences the experience playing back through the game again in March. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Bayak, who says, I didn't even know what Fair Games was until just now, where I learned A, live service, B, delayed to next year, C, 96% dislikes. This game's another money pit. Whoever was in charge of Sony current all-consuming obsession with live service slot need to be removed permanently. Well, he got his face on a cookie though. So like, I mean, I don't have my face on a cookie, but I almost wonder when it comes to this game, Fair Games, if Sony, while they see the reception to it clearly, you can just, again, on YouTube, the massive amounts of dislikes, it's, maybe it's a wait and see approach. It's like, you know what, this game, sure, coming out 2026, will people remember that initial reveal by then? I feel like if they just got rid of the trailer and never said anything, there are many people who probably would have just forgotten it even got revealed, especially if it looks somewhat different when they show it again. Also, if they ended up just canceling it, I don't know if a lot of people would be that broken up about it, but you feel like they have to try to hit on another live service game. I mean, Helldivers 2 worked out great for them. Out of the number that they greenlit, they gotta get another one. Like, another one's gotta work. And I feel like it's most likely the Horizon multiplayer, but that's just going off pure numbers of the sales that we've seen so far for that franchise and the perceived popularity that Sony has for it. So their willingness most likely to market it like crazy. I mean, really, who knows? I mean, who knows what's going to happen when Fair Games comes out? But maybe the best bet for it is that most people forget about it, and then it comes back and surprises everyone because they think it's a new game. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear about the story currently going around about how a Switch 2 is actually available for sale. It may have already been sold on the black market for $40,000. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.